Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my final mock draft ahead of the 2025 NHL draft taking place later tonight. As I'm recording this, it's noon on the day of the draft, so we'll see things are going to change. There's going to be a lot of chaos in this draft night, so this mock draft, by the time it's uploaded, it may not even be accurate. There may be picks that have been moved, but I'm going to give my best mock draft as of this point right now, after everything I've been hearing, everything I've been seeing, all the mock drafts I've been seeing, all the insiders, what they're reporting, everything all coming together for this one final mock draft. Also, if you want to see my thoughts during the draft, like my quick fire thoughts, go check out my Twitter, lglove1304. The account name is in the bio of this video, so go check that out if you want to see my instant reactions and thoughts to some of the picks going on tonight. But we'll jump right into the mock draft. We'll keep the easy stuff quick because there's a lot to get into here. At the top, it's still Matthew Schaefer. He's unanimously the top pick. There's not going to be a surprise here. Matthew Schaefer to the Islanders. Done, dusted, easy peasy. Next up, number 2. This is where things actually are getting a little bit more interesting. About a week ago or 2 weeks ago, last time I uploaded a mock draft, it felt like it was about 95-5 Michael Misa over Anton Frundell at the second overall pick. I'd say in the last week, up until today, it's 60-40, maybe 55-45 in favor of Misa. I'm sticking with my gut, which is Michael Misa. I think the Anton Frundell front is a bit of smoke. I don't think it's 100% factual. It's just a hot rumor. Obviously, the Sharks looking into him. They're going to look at all their options, but I still think Misa's their guy. So I'm sticking with Misa at 2, and then at 3 with Chicago, they're going to take whoever's left. This Chicago's pick is fully fully determined by what San Jose does. If San Jose takes Misa, like here, Chicago will take Frundell, and vice versa. If Frundell goes 2, it'll be Misa at 3. Those are the guys who are going to be 2-3. I think I was on the Porter Martone train. I've been saying Porter Martone should go to Chicago, but it's looking like he won't be the pick by Chicago. I think Frundell is likely the pick there. And then at number 4, we have the Utah Mammoth. Making a big trade for JJ Peterka and not having to give up this pick was really interesting to me, but they're still apparently in talks to be moving their pick, and they're exploring their options. This pick could be on the move for a few different teams, but if they stick and pick, I'm very confident this pick will be Caleb Desnoyers. He's risen up the draft boards after his really good playoff performance. He fits the archetype that NHL teams are looking for. He's solid size, he plays a great two-way game, he's physical, and has a lot of skill, and is also a centerman, which is a big trend in the top end of this draft. So I think Desnoyers to Utah is a pretty easy pick there. But I think if someone were to trade up to 4, I think the pick would likely be Higgins or Martone, but we'll see there. Now we get to pick number 5. This is where things start to get a little wild. I think there's the next the next few picks here, 5 to 8, or 5 to 7 even, just the next 3 picks. To me, there's 4 players for those 3 picks, and even a 5th you want to throw in Roger McQueen as a bit of a wild card. And whoever is the guy that isn't in those 3 picks is going to slip, and it's really hard to determine who. I think Philly and Boston are going centers. I think I'm pretty confident in that. Nashville's the wild card team. If Nashville also goes center, I think it means Porter Martone is going to slip pretty far, and he's going to fall potentially to the 8, to the 9, 10. Whoever jumps up for him really is where he'll land. But if Martone is the pick at 5, it's just a shot on which one of those 3 centers will slip out of the top 7 here and potentially be a trade-up target. I think whoever slips out of this range is likely a trade-up target for teams looking to acquire some of these players. So for me in this mock, I'm going with Nashville taking Porter Martone. I think it's a good, big, solid player to add to your top 6, gives you a good injection of skill into your prospect pool as well. I think they could go center, though. I really do think they could go center. This is the pick I'm one of the least confident in my entire mock. It's Porter Martone Nashville, but it just seems to be what I'm hearing is that Porter Martone is really well liked among the NHL scouts, among the NHL management teams. He's a very talented player, and it's very clear why teams like him. But I think if he doesn't go to 5 at Nashville, I don't think he'll go 6. I don't think he'll go 7. He could go 8, but at that point, you're looking at a potential trade-up, I'd imagine. So then at 6, the Philadelphia Flyers, I'm taking Brady Martin. I think Brady Martin is a prospect the team is already in love with. I think he's the one I would lock into this spot. I think there's no world in this draft where Brady Martin gets past pick number 7 to Boston. That is my lock of the draft, you could say. I think Martin is a for sure thing at 6 or 7 or 5. here in this draft. Teams love him, teams love his character off the ice, teams love the way he plays on the ice, the physicality, the technique he uses when he lays the body. He's just a really beloved player among the draft community. So I think this is a lock-up pick there. And then at Boston, at 7, I have them taking James Higgins, and there's plenty of reports of James Higgins potentially slipping down the board here, and they're rightfully so, but I wonder if the thought of him slipping is to the thought of him being at 3 or 4, and he's not going to go there, and I fully buy into that, but I don't think he's going to slip much further than 7. I really don't. I don't see Boston passing on him. I know they want size, they want physicality, but I just don't see Boston doing it. The only world where I see it happening is if the Flyers balk on Martin and take Jake O'Brien, and then Boston would take Martin over Higgins. But I don't think Martin makes it to 7. And again, if Higgins keeps slipping, there's 2 teams looking to trade up for Higgins, and 1 team looking to trade up for Martone, from what I'm hearing. For Higgins, it's Pittsburgh, and it's the New York Islanders. And that's what's really going to shake up this potential mock draft here. The Islanders, as of now, are in talks to trade Noah Dobson to either Columbus or Montreal for a collection of either their first round picks, they each have 2, or some prospects, and I believe that is with full intention of flipping those picks to get back into the top 7 to acquire James Higgins, the Long Island native there. So that's definitely up in the air. And the other team looking to trade up for Higgins and Martone is the Penguins, as I mentioned before. I think Dubas has been one of the most aggressive GMs on the phones. Every insider, every scout, everyone talking about this draft is talking about the Penguins as the team to watch in terms of move-ups, because they love Martone, they love Higgins, and they have the draft capital to do it, to make a move-up work. So a lot going on there in the top 7. It is really a wild, wild thing. And then number 8, we get to Seattle, and I'm going to be honest, I fully went into this mock thinking it was going to be the first mock where I didn't go defenseman for them, because I really went into it expecting Martone or Higgins to be there, and Seattle has a tendency just to take BPA. They've been needing to take a defenseman the past couple of years. They just take the best player on the board. Whoever slips to them, they'll scoop them up. Berkeley Catton, Shane Wright, they do it all the time. So I figured if Martone or Higgins was there, maybe not Higgins because it's a bit of the same archetype, but Martone especially, I think if he was there, I think Seattle would jump on him or trade out of the pick. But it turns out those guys didn't make it, and I don't see them taking Jake O'Brien here, despite him being in that group above with the other centermans and Porter Martone. So I've got him going Radim Murtka. I really was not expecting it to be another Radim Murtka pick, but here we are. In all my mock drafts, I've done Radim Murtka to Seattle, and I'm sticking with it at number 8 here. At number 9, we go to Buffalo, and Buffalo is a team who I thought, if Murtka wasn't going at 8 to Seattle, I thought his floor was 9 to Buffalo. But after the Michael Kesselring trade, or the JJ Peterka trade that fetched the Michael Kesselring, I don't think Murtka is going to Buffalo, because they filled their need for a big right shot defenseman, and they got one that can help them immediately. So now they're in a BPA kind of spot. They're not as desperate for a right shot defenseman, I think. And in that world, I think Jake O'Brien's the easy pick here. He slipped out of that group in the top 7, and Buffalo jumps all over him. Great playmaking center. He's got good size, and he's going to bulk up when he gets on an NHL training program to add some muscle to his frame. So a good pick there for Buffalo. And then finishing up the top 10, we got Anaheim here, and to me, this is an easy pick. If this is how the board falls, I've got them taking Roger McQueen. It's a player they are reportedly really in love with, a player that fits the mold Pat Verbeek tends to go for, a big power forward center. But the difference is with McQueen compared to a lot of other power forwards, he has got skill, like so much skill, just skill you wouldn't believe a player of this size can have. So definitely a player that fits what Anaheim is looking to do. And I think his floor is, I'd say his floor is 11. I think he could maybe slip past Anaheim, but I'd say his floor is 11. But his ceiling is 4 or 5. Roger McQueen's the biggest wild card in this top 10, in my opinion, and he can really shake things up. I really heavily considered him to Nashville. I think he's more likely than O'Brien to Nashville just because of the pure upside McQueen possesses. But it's an interesting spot, and McQueen is one of the bigger wild cards in this draft, and it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. I can see a lot of different spots here, but I would guess in the 8 to 11 range. Then we get to Pittsburgh at 11 and 12 with back-to-back picks, and I think there's a very plausible world where they don't have either of these picks, or they only have one. but they also could just have both, like this situation here. I'm not doing any trades. They're almost impossible to predict in the NHL draft. So I'm going to grab, with the 11th pick, Kayshawn Aitchison. I think one of these picks, either Aitchison or Smith, they'll take a defenseman, a good left shot guy to pair with Harrison Brunicky down the line on potentially the top pair, maybe more of a second pair kind of thing. And with the second pick at 12, I've got him sticking with Victor Eklund. Here, I think Victor Eklund is the best available option by far, and also I just think Pittsburgh's a team that's been in on him and is going to take him if he's on the board. If it's not Eklund with this second pick, I would bet on Lyndon Lakovic. That's the other guy they've been tied to here at pick number 12. So it's an interesting spot for Pittsburgh, but I think if they don't trade, they're just going to go one of Eklund or Lakovic, and one of Smith or Aitchison with those two picks to get a defenseman and a forward going along here. Next up at 13 to the Detroit Red Wings. I think this is the other spot Victor Eklund lands. I think if he doesn't go to Pittsburgh, he'll go to Detroit. Fits Stevie Y's archetype, fits the style of player he tends to go after. But instead, I'm going after a different player with a very similar style, a little bit bigger, with Carter Bear. He's got the Achilles injury, which, is going to scare some teams away, but he's already back on the ice. It shouldn't be anything too massive to worry about. And I think he's a good fit for Detroit, and is, to me, probably the top player on the board here at number 13. Then at 14, the Columbus Blue Jackets, again, they might not have this pick. This pick might be going to the Islanders and then off somewhere else for a trade-up, so this is all up in the air. But at 14, I've got them taking Jackson Smith. I think this pick is either Jackson Smith or Lyndon Lakovic. Those are the two players it sounds like it could be here. I think they weren't expecting Smith to be here, and I think there's a world where Smith isn't here. I do think there's a world there, but I think teams weren't expecting Smith to be at 14 because they were expecting the Rangers to keep the 12th overall pick, in which case they could have just taken Smith. But I don't think Pittsburgh double dips on defensemen here. So Columbus gets Smith to fall into their lap, and I think they'd be all over that pick, and it would fit in nicely to their young decor of the future. Next up at 15, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. I think this is Braden Coots here. I think it's a really good fit, and it's a good, solid piece to add to the Canucks core. They don't really have a good long-term centerman in the system, in their prospect pool. They've got some wingers, they've got some defensemen. Their top guys, Lakiri Maki and Will Launder, neither one of them is a center. Braden Coots provides a good high floor, low risk centerman of the future. Can play middle six, forechecks really hard, really physical despite his size, and plays a really good game and has some good skill to go along with it. I really do like the Braden Coots fit to Vancouver here. Now another set of back-to-back picks. We've got the Canadians with their two picks, and once again, they could have neither of these picks if they trade them for Noah Dobson. I think, and then, it's easy to sit here and go, well, I think the Islanders will make the same picks as the Habs would here, and I think that would be possible if they were to keep the picks, but I don't think there's a world where the Islanders trade for these picks and actually stick and make the picks. If the Islanders are making a trade for picks, they are flipping them for James Haggins. That is what their goal seems to be. But for Montreal, I've got him taking Lyndon Lakovic, who I mentioned could go a few different places. I really went back and forth on Columbus a lot between Smith and Lakovic, but I ended up landing on Smith, so Lakovic makes it here to Montreal. Provides a good top 9 winger center blend. He can play really anywhere that you can move up and down your lineup due to his really good size. And I think if he potentially, hopefully plays for a better team, like hopefully either Moose Jaw gets better or he gets traded in the WHL, he'll develop a little bit better playing with some real teammates, because he had it wasn't a rough year, it was a good year for him, but he was playing with on a putrid Moose Jaw team. So I really do like Lakovic a lot. And then at 17, I've got the Habs taking Logan Hensler. I think I went back and forth here on Hensler or Reed. I think similar to the Penguins with their two picks, I doubt the Habs double dip on forward or defense. They've got a pretty well-rounded pool. I think they're just going to try and keep it that way. But yeah, I went back and forth on Hensler and Reed a lot, but I opted for Hensler. He's the more stable, high-floor, right-shot defenseman. He's a little bit bigger too. I think that's sort of just not a bigger need, but it would be nice to insulate some stability into that decor. You have guys like Lane Hudson and Logan Mailloux and David Reinbacher who are really offensively gifted. Sometimes they lack on the defensive end, and with Reinbacher, it's a matter of what are you getting in him truly. Hudson, it'd be nice to have a right shot guy next to him to help insulate. They have Caden Gooley who could work with that, but I think grabbing a stable, defensive-minded right-shot defenseman who can develop an offensive game too, especially playing alongside some of those guys, and Logan Hensler is a really good fit here for Montreal. To me, with Hensler, I think this is probably his peak draft position. I think this is as high as he could go. I don't see him going anywhere above 17 or 16 is the same real pick, to be honest, but I don't see him going anywhere higher than this. Next up, Calgary up here with New Jersey's pick. I think this one here, it's a lovely fall for the Flames. It's Justin Carbonneau. I really don't see a world where he makes it past this pick. There's a very likely world where he doesn't make it to this pick. I think that's very, very plausible. But I think this is his floor. I don't think he can go any lower than this. I think Calgary won't pass up the chance on a super high skill, super good scoring winger to add to their pool. They need goal scoring in their pool, especially up front. They have tons of great D-men. They don't have a great, just pure scoring, elite level, offensive forward. I think Carbonneau can be that guy for Calgary. At number 19, St. Louis Blues, and this is a tough one. I think we're looking at two players here, Cameron Reid and Cole Reshny. I wasn't really expecting Cameron Reid to be here. I think there's a row where one defenseman goes a little higher and it bumps them all up one spot in terms of the teams taking D-men. But I think this is Cameron Reid's floor, is St. Louis, so I'm going with Cameron Reid here. I don't see him getting past St. Louis. I think they're going to jump on him and add him to a really solid young D-core that has, Adam Jiricek, Theo Lindstein, and Philip Broberg, and really solidify your top four of the future there. Cole Reshny is definitely a thought. I really could see it adding a good, skilled centerman to this group, but I think Cameron Reid makes more sense as just the better overall player, according to the consensus at this spot. At Columbus at number 20, and this is a pick that is really tough here. I went with Josh Ravensburger, and I've had him bouncing around the 20 to 32 range all throughout my mocks, and I really was sitting here heading into this one, and I was thinking, this might be the one where he doesn't even make it into the first round, because I couldn't figure out where to place him. But with the way the board fell for Columbus, he makes sense here. I think if they went Lakovic at 14, I would have gone with, a Blake Fiddler here at 20 and given Columbus a defenseman. But the only forwards on the board either feel like reaches for what Columbus is looking for, or it's Cole Reshny, the only one really left that isn't a reach, and I don't think they want another skill first kind of guy. I think they want a bigger body to throw into that forward core, someone a little more versatile and dynamic. I don't think that's Cole Reshny. And Columbus can use a goaltending prospect. Merzlikins isn't anything, really at all at this point. He could be moved for a contract up. I doubt he gets dumped because they just traded Daniil Tarasov. But, all you have right now is him, and you have Jet Greaves. You have some okay prospects in the system. Sergei Ivanov is solid. There's some decent guys in there. But Ravensburger would be the clear crown jewel goalie prospect of this pool and would fit in and be able to make an impact at the point where by the time Ravensburger's ready, you know what you have in like a Jet Greaves or a Sergei Ivanov. So you'd be very confident in what you have in Ravensburger. I think this is a pick that a spot that he could go. If not here, though, I think you're looking at Nashville's a sneaky spot. They just traded Askarov, which makes it seem unlikely, but there is, this pick lines up better with Saros' timeline than the Askarov pick. By the time Ravensburger's ready, Saros will be on his way out. Similar to how Saros was with Rinne, Askarov was a little too early. The timelines didn't quite line up. Carolina could always use goaltending. They've got some question marks there. Winnipeg is in the same boat as Nashville. By the time Ravensburger is ready, Hellebuck will be on his way out, and it's a great guy to learn from. But again, I could also, at this point, I could see him slipping out of round one, which is almost what I fully expected to do. Columbus, the fit just seemed too perfect here, and it just kind of fell into my lap as I was mocking this. At number 21, the Ottawa Senators opting to keep this pick, and I've got them taking Jack Nesbitt. They seem to be looking for size, and this range here, 21 to about, 28, I'd say. These teams are all really looking to add some size and punch, especially up at the front in the forward group. And the run starts here with Ottawa taking Jack Nesbitt. I think Jack Nesbitt either goes here, he goes at 22, or he goes at 25 to Chicago. Those are the three spots for Nesbitt, it seems. Those three teams are really trying to add size to their forward core. And I think Nesbitt's could be a good 3C, play a good physical PK role for the Sens, and you can move him up and down and around your lineup here as he develops. So I like this fit here in Ottawa. Next up, Philly, and I'm taking Daniil Prokhorov, the big Russian prospect here. A late riser into the first round. Again, I just don't see them passing up this kind of size. This The reports have all been saying that Philly is looking to add size and physicality to their team, and it makes sense. You have Trevor Zegras and you have Matvei Michkov, and you have some other skilled guys as well, you know, like a Bobby Brink, Owen Tippett, that aren't the most physical up in your forward core. You add some long-term, you know, these are some more long-term pieces of Brady Martin, as I took at 6, Daniil Prokhorov, and they have 4 second-round picks, along with another first in a few picks here. So take Prokhorov here and grab another some size to add to this prospect pool and really balance out what you're building long-term for the future of this team. At 23, the Nashville Predators snagging Cole Reshny. I really love this fit, and he fell pretty far here. Nashville, it seems like in all my mock drafts, they grab good value for where I have these players ranked. Reshny is just a really, really good fit. I mean, they went Porter Martone up at 5, and, you know, I was talking about them potentially wanting a centerman, wanting an injection of skill into this prospect pool, especially down the middle. That's Cole Reshny. Really talented, skilled, good skating forward, plays the middle of the ice. That's a really perfect fit here. Adding him and Martone, it's a really good balance and fit in this pool. Then at 24, we head to the Los Angeles Kings, and this is Blake Fiddler. I thought about Fiddler to Nashville. He's got connections to Barry Trotz and the organization of Nashville. Fiddler's dad played a long NHL career for the Predators, so it does make sense here. But I think with Nashville having a pickup again in the 2 picks here, they'd prefer to wait and just see what defenseman makes it to them. So LA, they're looking to get bigger. Rumors are they're trying to add to the D-core as well. Blake Fiddler's the fit here, 6'4" right shot defenseman. Makes a ton of sense fitting in LA. Then at 25, Chicago misses on the 2 big forwards they're looking at. I think Nesbitt and Prokhorov are their floors. The floor is Chicago. I don't think Chicago passes on either of them. But if both of them are gone, I think Malcolm Spence is a good complementary backup option here. A consolation prize, if you will. Good top 9 forward who's got the speed and skill to play up and down your lineup and plays with enough juice and physicality to play on your third line and be a good role player there. I really do like Malcolm Spence to the Chicago Blackhawks. I think it's a good piece here to shake up their prospect pool and get away from a lot more of those skill guys and try and add some pure just bite to your lineup. Next up, Nashville again, and once again, great value here. Sasha Boumedian. I love Boumedian, but he's going to go a lot lower than I have him ranked. It seems to be the thought here. But for Nashville, I think you add another defenseman here to your prospect pool to go alongside Tanner Molendyk. It's a good fit for Nashville, and they're getting a real balance here. They got the skill in Cole Reshny, the just pure offensive, just upside as a whole in Porter Martone, and you grab a defenseman here in Sasha Boumedian to help balance out your prospect pool a little more going forward and coming away with a real good value draft. Next at 27, it's the Washington Capitals. There's a few different guys you could go here. Washington's a bit of a wild card. They tend to take shots on guys. I like, if Boumedian's here, I do like that fit as well. You know, his teammate Cole Hudson is here in Washington. It would be an interesting fit, and I wouldn't mind it. But I'm going to go with Colin Potter. The Capitals like taking the upside swings, like taking the guys that people pass on. Andrew Cristall is an example of that. Ilya Protas, another example. But besides Cristall, they've gone for a lot of big guys. Alexei Protas is already on the lineup. Ilya Protas is big. Ryan Leonard's a big physical guy. They have a lot of those physical guys. They don't have a lot of the smaller guys, but they aren't afraid to take them. And I think Colin Potter fits the blend that they'd be looking for. A smaller guy, best skater in the draft class, smooth on his feet, and has a lot of skill to go along with it. It's more a matter of who takes the shot on him as a first-round guy, because I think he's a first-round level talent. I could see Chicago taking him if somehow Prokhorov, Nesbitt, and Spence are gone. He fits the style Kyle Davidson tends to draft for with the speed. Him alongside Oliver Moore would be a pretty stupid duo in terms of trying to catch up to those two. But I think they'll go for size, and Washington grabs the speed here at 27. At 28, the Winnipeg Jets grabbing Henry Brzustewicz. I think he's got a weird range of spots. I think he's going to fall into this mess of defenseman at the end of the first round. Floor likely San Jose, because San Jose is going to take a defenseman with one of their 2 picks here at 30 or at 33 at the start of the second round. But Winnipeg has got tons of forwards up front. Brad Lambert, Braden Yager, Nikita Chibrikov, Kobe Barlow. They've got young talent up front. Cole Perfetti's already on the team. On the back end, in terms of young pieces, it's Alphonse Friedge and Elias Salamanson. That's not enough really long term for this team. Grab Henry Brustevich, a guy who, unlike those two, I think would be a better secondary offensive punch here, playing on the power play, potentially the second unit, I'd say, and provides a good two-way game. I like Brustevich here to Winnipeg. At 29, I've got Carolina taking the shot on Alexander Zorowski. This is my bet on a late guy, a guy who maybe isn't a first-round talent, but I think sneaks into the first round, and Carolina's known to take their shots on these kinds of guys. Super skilled, and that's what I'm looking at here for Carolina. Grabbing a super skilled guy who's got some great hands, some of the best in the class, and a really good touch and offensive prowess. So I do like this fit here to Carolina. Add some good skill to this prospect pool. They haven't been afraid to avoid that in recent years, and they have a tendency to draft Russians as well. They're not afraid to dip into that pool either, and they've had good success with that, with dipping into that pool. At 30 to San Jose, you know, they could go defenseman here, but I think I might just wait till 33 and see what makes it to them. So at 30, I'm going to take Milton Gastrin. Another decent value pick in my opinion, and really the more I think about it, the more I thought about it when I was making this mock, I really like this fit. I think Milton Gastrin is a perfect 3C long-term for the San Jose Sharks. Plays a great hard-nosed two-way game and has a good enough skill to go along with it. He could be the perfect 3C behind Will Smith, Celebrini, and Misa, whichever two you play at center there. But I like Milton Gastrin here as a good third-line piece for the long-term future of San Jose, because to me they have tons of skill in their pool with top 6 players that are really just their top 6 guys, so like Quentin Musty, Kasper Halttunen, Igor Chernyshov. Gastrin would be a good guy to pair with Philip Beeston in this bottom 6 for the long-term future of this team. At 31, the Philadelphia Flyers continuing to add size to their prospect pool, this time doing it on the back end with Kurbin Limitov, another guy I see sneaking into the first round. I see him go a few different ranges. He got a pretty wide range of results, up to the late first round to the mid-second round. You know, he could go really anywhere, but I think a big, strong, physical Russian defender with some decent skill, I don't see him getting out of the first round, in my opinion. I think this is a guy teams are gonna really like. I think if he's not going here, I think 33 to San Jose is a really solid fit as well. And then rounding out the first round, I've got the Calgary Flames taking Ben Kindle. Really, he slipped pretty far in this mock, and it was just kind of something that happened. You know, undersized guy who has lots and lots of skill, but a lot of the teams in this range, a lot of teams in this draft as a whole are prioritizing the big bodies, and this draft has a lot of big bodies. So a guy like Ben Kindle just kind of falls through the cracks and lands in Calgary, and I think Calgary would consider him an 18. So if you're getting a guy like this who also plays for the Calgary Hitmen, this is a really good fit for Calgary here at 32. So now, since this is the final mock, I ended up doing an entire second round as well. I'm not going to go through each one of those picks individually because that would take forever, and I've rambled on for a while here, so I'll throw the whole second round of this draft up here. Carter Amico, big defenseman to San Jose. I think this is a D-man for sure. Ish Wozniak, some good skill to Chicago. Semyon Frolov being the second goalie off the board. I don't have him as my second ranked goalie. I have Ivan Kovic, but I think he seems likely to be the second goalie. Teams are talking about him as more of a 1B to Ravensburgen, which is surprising to me. But I've got going to Nashville, who I mentioned when talking about Ravensburgen. They could be in the market for a long-term successor to UC Saros. Philly adding some big size and Will Horkoff, Bill Zonin, a good steady player going to Washington here. Shane Van Sage, very physical forward going to Seattle. I think he fits the mold of what they've been almost building these past few weeks, adding Mason Marchment, Frederick Goudreau, some good hard-nosed bottom 6 players. I think Van Sage's a long-term version of one of those guys here, so I like that there. Simon Huaxi Wang going to Buffalo. He's been a big riser. There's talks of him at the early second, late first. I think Buffalo is willing to take the shot on him here to add to their decor with the upside he potentially possesses. Another shot here with Mason West to Philly, the 6'6" football player. Philly's got tons of picks in the second round, so why wouldn't they be the team to take the shot, take the risk on Mason West and try and tap into that upside? I really like this fit a lot here. Will Moore, good bottom 6, middle 6 centerman for the Habs. Vaclav Nestrasil, some good size adding to the Islanders here as they added Schaefer at the top. Cole McKinney, very similar to Will Moore, really good, just middle 6 centerman of the future for the Rangers. Max Sinica, He's been a big riser in the second round here. Another big body defenseman. It's just the trend of this draft, really. Same thing here with Anaheim taking Jacob Brombach, late riser due to the physical traits. Eric Nielsen here to Utah. I like this fit as a bottom six center, maybe probably a third line center more so for Utah. Jack Murtaugh, some good skill in Vancouver. Peyton Kettles, another big defenseman. Shocker. It's just the trend of the draft. Right? It's just the big draft. If you want to take a big guy, this is the draft to do it. If you want to bet on big guys going high in drafts, this is the draft to do it. But yeah, Kettles. Montreal, I think potentially the most skilled guy in terms of just pure hands in this class, and Riker Lee. People are talking about him a lot. I've got Cameron Schmidt slipping all the way down here to New Jersey at pick number 50. And that's an interesting one I wasn't fully expecting, but he seems to be falling out of the first round in mock drafts, and it's more and more common. He's just really, really small, and I'm questioning whether that size will be enough or will the skill be enough to get past the size of the NHL level. But New Jersey doesn't seem afraid to take the shot. Luca Romano to Boston, some more skill there. Adam Banak, another smaller guy, going to Minnesota. Artem Vilchinsky, a good solid defenseman, going to San Jose here. A big body defenseman. I think he's more of a long-term project in my eyes here, but I think it's a guy that San Jose, they can afford to take their weight on. They can afford to wait on him, and he can come up and almost replenish the youth in the D-core once potentially you see some shakeup as the young guys they currently have start to phase their way out or sort of figure out where they're going to land. Eddie Enborg, a guy who is an interesting player, really good bottom six guy. I saw him sneak into the first round in Craig Button's recent mock draft, so that's an interesting thought there. I don't think he goes that high. I don't think he has the upside to go in the first round of this draft, but it's an interesting thought. Carmen Fonder to Nashville. I've got Tampa Bay taking Andrianov, a goalie I really like here. I think the four goalies are really locks to be going in the first two rounds. Andrianov to Tampa, similar to a lot of the goal teams I think are taking goalies here, is it's just kind of the long-term successor to your franchise guy. I think Andrianov, 4 or 5 years down the line, maybe he could be be the successor to Andrei Vasilevsky as he's on his way out. And another Russian guy could learn from Vasilevsky. I like the fit there. Nathan Bem to Seattle, Jack Ivankovich to Vegas. They've been in talks about grabbing a goalie. I'm not 100% sold on this. I don't know if this is where Ivankovich lands, but the thing is, I don't see him coming out of the second round, so it's more about finding a spot for him just because the talent's too good here. And for Vegas, I see them taking that shot. They do have Pavel Moisevich, who had a pretty good year, and Carl Lindbaum, who's solid, but Ivankovich would be better than both of them. Theo Stockselius, a good big bottom six center to add to Pittsburgh. They need some centermen down this pool. I think this makes a lot of sense. Matthew Guard to Anaheim, Theo Hallquish to Boston, Will Reynolds, a very late riser into the back end of the second round, to Chicago. Wojciech Chiar and Owen Conrad round out the second round there. So, feel free to pause and take a deeper look at those guys there. That'll do it for my final mock draft of this draft season. It's been a blast. It's been a crazy season. It's only going to get crazier in the next couple of hours. So, if you want to hear my thoughts on anything that happens in the next hour leading up to the draft and during the draft, be sure to check me out on Twitter. The username is in the description of this video, so go give me a follow over there and to see more of my opinions and thoughts. It's been a blast making some draft content for you. I'll have a lot of reactionary stuff coming out in the coming days following the draft, and we'll get back into some prospect rankings. So stay tuned for all that, subscribe, and like to see some more, and I will see you in the next one.